turn for this gathering. Dear Earthlings, we are gathered here today to celebrate the marriage of Vivian and Stephen. But this is not the purpose of this speech, which is to roast Stephen. I will leave the roasting of Vivian to Tonya. Steve and I first met in January 1997. We both started at Transfield in Worley, working for our dear departed friend, Michael Ferrani. But prior to that, a bit of a background. Steve was born in Wigan, near a larger town of Warrington, between Manchester, which is full of Manx, and Liverpool, full of Scousers. If you are from the UK, that makes Stephen a northerner, which for people from the south, g'day Andy, is a derogatory term, and vice versa. Steve immigrated to Australia in 1989 with his beautiful wife, Marilyn, Maz, and their dog, Rory. Steve started work on the Goodwin Alpha project with Woodside and DEM, David McKenna. Steve and Maz obtained their citizenship as soon as they could. Steve is a proud Australian.
Aussie Steve.
Except when it comes to the Australian cricket team. Especially David Warner and co. He always denies supporting England and any other team playing Australia. His favourite saying when challenged on this point is to refer to himself as Aussie Steve and to sing Waltzing Britannia. Shortly after arriving in Australia, Steve and Maz had Reese, then Cara. Much later, Declan arrived as a late but welcome surprise. Around this time, excluding Declan, I graduated from engineering, and in a lot of ways, Steve and I had parallel working careers before we met. Steve worked on the construction of Goodwin in Korea, whilst I worked on the construction of Goodwin in Jervois Bay, down south of Perth. After Goodwin, Steve worked on the Wandoo project, whilst I worked on the Spark project. We were both responsible for field instrumentation on these projects and managed around about 60 purchase orders. An interesting fact is that Steve finished up doing the Wandoo project in the building that I did the previous project in, which was quite coincidental because that was in Netherlands on Broadway, so nowhere near the city centre. After we completed our respective projects, we met at Worley, Council Worley. At the time, Steve had hair. In fact, he had a mullet. Initially, when we started work, we were both shocked to not only get what we considered at the time a single small project each for the entire year. Steve was working on North Rankin and I was working on Goodwin. But little did we realise how difficult these small projects could be with the interference of Woodside. Steve, can you recall the project number?
20174.
Correct. To this day, Steve still has nightmares about gas-tight wire creeps and neural, anti-smoke, non-toxic, fire retardant ducting. It soon became obvious that we were very similar and that we got on well. A bromance was brewing. Thank you. This also included our good friend Mike, and we soon became known as the Three Amigos. We would always have lunch together, initially eating our lunch sandwiches in a nearby park. We would discuss local politics, world politics, religion, work, and it always came to the same conclusion. The world was stuck in a Kama Sutra position. We would make bets on world events, such as when would the first Gulf War start, and the bet would always be the same. 2 cups of coffee. But the specific circumstances around the actual bet became more and more complicated to ensure all the legal possibilities were covered, as Mike would always try to worm his way out, given any available loophole. As our bromance developed, and being manly men, we would love to get one over the other. This included when checking each other's work and finding a mistake. There was no greater humiliation than having the other point out a mistake, as this ensured ongoing reminders until the role was reversed. Obviously, this led to very effective self-checking and great quality work. This one-upmanship merged into the rest of our relationship. I actually found out that Steve only got second-class honours in his engineering degree. One up to me. He then countered with I only got first-class honours from a second-class university. One up to Steve. Back to even. This continues to this date. In fact, it is finally gratifying to know that Steve has acknowledged that I am the best man. I am sure that joke's never been used before. Steve, during our early times at Transfield Wally, played soccer. Football for our non-Australian earthlings. He was good at it. Well, that's what he told me. But then again, you can just ask him. I played golf, but we found a mutual interest in scuba diving. When we went out on a dive boat charter, as we were just about to enter the water, Steve would proclaim, "Death before dishonour," for all the way to hear, and I would cringe. We were terrible scuba buddies. We would enter the water, give the OK signal, head straight to the bottom, give the OK signal, then go our separate ways. We would hunt for crayfish. These would be the most expensive crayfish ever, as they included our boat charter fees, tank refill fees, and our day rates. You would never go on the weekend, as fun was more important than work. We would always meet up at the end of the dive. Invariably, one of us would be low on air and had to buddy breathe the other for decompression. Occasionally, we both had run. At the end of the dive, as we got back on board, Steve would proclaim, "Cheated death once again," for all the way to hear. Again, I would cringe. We had a number of incidents, and fun things happen when diving. They were incidents, not accidents, as an accident implies no one was to blame, which was never the case for us manly men doing manly things. We went out on a terrible day, 3 to 5 metre seas, to a deep dive site, 30 metres. Only a handful of us went in the water. Steve and I mainly to get away from everyone being sick on board. The dive site was an old upturned barge with holes cut in it. At the bottom, we noticed that the anchor had fallen through one of the cutouts. At the end of our 10 minutes at the bottom, the dive master, Steve, and I tried to extract the anchor, which we succeeded. The only problem was that a squall had hit the boat at the time, and the anchor ripped out of our hands and flew across the deck onto onto the seabed. Steve had to go surface for decompression and managed to get to the back of the boat, whilst the dive master and myself chased the anchor and were trying to get it to bite in the seabed. Unfortunately, the seabed there was mainly limestone, and we couldn't get it to bite. Eventually, 10 of us all had to surface for decompression. Once at the surface, the seas were even bigger, and we could only see the boat at the crest of a wave. It was a long swim, and the boat, with divers in the water, is not allowed to turn its engines on and come towards you, so we had to swim to the boat. We all made it back safely and survived that day, so we truly did cheat death. And Steve has a story about what happened to him when he got to the back of the boat and was hanging on to the line. Can you tell us, Steve? You were hanging at the 10 metre mark, a wave hit, and you went from 10 metres to 1 metre in the air, back down to 10 metres.
That was exciting.
Another time, whilst diving, I was swimming above Steve, and I had a crayfish in my loop, and Steve was below me. He was unaware that I was there. Steve was just about to put his head into a crevice with a lot of seaweed floating around his head. The timing was perfect. I gently placed the crayfish on Steve's head. It immediately gripped. I can honestly say this is one of the few times I have heard clearly what was said underwater with a mouth containing a breathing regulator.
Thank you for that.
The sign language was explicit. Around this time, both Steve and I had started to become follically challenged. Both our dive suits had shrunk, being stored in dark, dry environments. Hence, diving became a difficult pastime. Steve's calf had started to play up, and eventually he also gave up soccer. I saw this as my opportunity to get him hooked on golf. A ruse to allow me to play golf every Friday afternoon. Although Steve's a good golfer, I have the lower handicap. 1 up to me. After transfer Wally, Steve and I worked on separate Woodside projects, teaming up again to a certain extent on the Gorgon project. Unfortunately, during this time, Matt's passed. After a brave battle with cancer, Steve was lost.
Fast forward.
So, Steve continued to work, stayed with Chevron, and was granted compassionate support by his boss at the time, Matt Arce. After the Gorgon project, I did stints with Shell until we came back to Chevron on Wheatstone Downstream as part of operations acceptance. This is where I met Viv, who initially seemed to be a shy, respectful lady, but it seemed very obvious that Viv had a wicked sense of humour and was extremely confident. I might repeat a bit of the speech that was said earlier now. Around this time, Declan got a pet pair of cats, Smidge and Gibson, and moved to Melbourne for work. This led to Steve getting a pair of cats himself, Luna and Ginny. Rory would be rolling in his grave. Cara was also over east at this time for work, but has come home and she brought her bird Biscuit. Declan is obviously also back home, working from home, but works on Melbourne time. Steve has been working in the Chevron Australian Business Unit, the Technical Excellence Department, and this is how Steve and Viv met. They developed a friendship, sharing cat photos and videos. Eventually, Viv took over running the functional safety closeout team, which Steve and Emiliano, G'day, are part of. This meant that Vivian became Steve's boss. No possibility of a conflict of interest there. Their relationship developed from there, from friendship to love, with Viv eventually moving into Steve's home with her cat Mindy. The household is truly a cat-around home, now containing 5 cats and 1 very nervous bird. Finally, I would like to say congratulations to my best friend Steve and his beautiful wife, Vivian. May you both have happy, long, fun-filled lives together. You both deserve it. To Steve and Vivian Catchall.
Thanks, Dev. That's a really hard act to follow. So I'll start, before I start, by saying 3 things. One is I really need to see that mullet photo. The second is I'm really glad you're still alive, Steve. And the third, I'll get back to. I drank a bit too much. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Tonya, and as the maid of honour, I have the privilege today of sharing a few words with you all about my dearest friend and one of the most remarkable people I know, Viv. In full transparency, I wasn't too sure where to begin with this speech. It's a bit of a challenge to try and condense almost 10 years of friendship down into 3 minutes, and so many admirable qualities as well. But here it goes. Here are just a few of the things that make Viv so exceptional, for those of you who might not have had the pleasure of spending as much time with her as I have. First and foremost, Viv is the most empathetic and considerate person that I know, hands down. It doesn't seem to matter what she has on her plate, she always makes time for the people in her life, and she can make you feel like the most special person in the world. I've been working overseas for the last 9 months, but Viv's been incredible at maintaining contact, sharing her life updates, sharing her songs of the day, and a plethora of photos, so it feels like I'm right there with her, even though I'm so far away. Secondly, Viv is extremely caring, and a very, very active demonstrator of that. She's the friend who will constantly check in on you, who remembers the smallest details that you share with her, and who will go out of her way to make sure you're being taken care of. Viv spent a few days with me in Houston when I first moved over, and I need more fingers than I've got to count the number of times I caught her proactively doing things like my dishes, sorting and washing my laundry, or making my bed. Relaxation is not a word in her vocabulary when she sees an opportunity to help. Thirdly, Viv is exceptionally generous. Whilst we both share a tendency to be thrifty and live below our means, that money-conscious nature doesn't extend to others for Viv. Viv is always seeing something she knows someone will love and going out of her way to get it for them. Half my wardrobe and all my cat merchandise is a result of Viv's generosity. And I'm sure Steve's golf game has had a bit of an upswing as well because of my recent purchases by Viv at the golf store. And last but not least, Viv is more brave than most of us could ever hope to be. She's certainly got some things she's scared of, like heights, but she faces her fears head on with an unparalleled strength of character. And if you don't believe me, just ask to see some of the shots of her climbing staircases atop cliffs or riding Vespers in Vietnam with Steve. I'll close now by saying, Steve, you're a very, very lucky guy to be the direct recipient of Viv's love and affection. She's an extremely special person, but from all the things I've heard, I'm confident that you are too. second class honours. I'm inspired by the love and affection I've seen you have for each other, and I hope that you continue to love each other. Like Viv loves taking a selfie, like Steve loves playing golf, and like Mindy, Viv's cat, loves eating freeze-dried chicken. Viv, Steve, I wish you both the best on this day and for all the rest to come. To Viv and Steve.
Thank you, Tonya. So I'm going to keep mine short and sweet.
Just hold this paper.
Which is unusual for me.
How you use it?
I use this thing. Right. Okay. Yeah. So life's got like sort of twist of fate, you know. Some years ago, microphone close to the voice is better. So at that point, you know, we met by accident. There's a reshuffle. Dave came along to join our office, join our team, and we used to chat like cats. And started Miss Friends, and then over that time, Viv actually became my best friend. Sorry, Dad, you're right. And after a while, I realised that actually hang on, we're actually dating here. Well, it's a bit slow, so careful. Then I realised that I actually become to love this beautiful woman, and I feel privileged now to be Viv's husband, and I'm going to share every moment of our life together. So I just hope you forgive me for playing so badly when we jam and sing together. And I'll be a bad guitar player. So really, I want to thank you all today for coming and witnessing and celebrating our get together. So all my friends, family, friends, yeah, I'm Benny. Oh, Benny too. And my new family, you know, Paul, Lisa, Ken, Joelle, and the lovely girls. Zoe and Chloe, Peter and Emily, and James and Alexa. So thank you very much. I'll leave the floor to my darling wife.
Thank you so much. So we really met by accident, and neither of us were looking for anyone. And we're really glad that we found each other. And I'd like to thank everyone for sharing this day with us, especially Cara, Reese, and Beck, and Deb, and Jeff, and Deb. Sorry. And a special thanks to Paul and my mum and all my brothers, Ken and Peter and their families, and special thanks to Karen and Ray and Ashley, and who flew over especially from Hong Kong to be here, so really glad you can come. And everyone, I can name everyone, and I really thank you all for coming and sharing this great celebration with us. Really, really pleased to share it with you. So yeah, thank you. There's cake and desserts and more food and drinks. So please enjoy yourself. Thank you.
Okay everyone, that's the formal part of things done, so let's get back to having a good time.